Hello, in this video I'm going to be going over how you can generate thumbnails on the Linux desktop. So the main purpose of this video is so that if you're writing some application that requires thumbnails, you don't go over and reinvent the wheel making some program that can manage thumbnails for all types of files like your PDFs, your PNGs, and your JPEGs when all this work is already done for you. So let's get right into it. So these are kind of the entities in play. You have clients that actually want thumbnails, and you have these thumbnailer processes that already exist. The clients ask the thumbnailer processes to generate thumbnails over this communication channel called dbus, and the thumbnailer processes put those thumbnails in a location described by the cross desktop group thumbnail standards. So we'll start off with the cross desktop group role. So the cross desktop group essentially specifies where thumbnails are stored. So I have the spec open here in Firefox. Essentially, it specifies that thumbnails are stored in this cache/thumbnails folder in subfolders named according to the quality of the thumbnails that are contained in that folder. And it also specifies that for any given file, the actual file name of the thumbnail is going to be the MD5 sum of the absolute URI of that file. There's a bit more in the spec, but really you only need those 2 bits of knowledge in order to go forwards with the spec. So the next entity is dbus. So I'll give a brief summary of this introduction to dbus document. So right from the document I'll quote: dbus is an inter-process communication mechanism, a medium for local communication between processes running on the same host. So in dbus you have the concept of a bus, which is that communication channel. You have an object, which is generally a process which wants to expose certain behaviors, and you have interfaces and methods, which are sets of behaviors that an object can implement. The combination of all these three, so if you have a bus, an object, and a particular interface method that you want to call, these can be likened to HTTP API requests on a particular URL. And we're going to use this concept in a practical example of how you're going to generate thumbnails using the dbus thumbnail daemon on Linux. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the particular interface that we want is actually public. We have this thumbnail management dbus spec right here. We're only interested in one method here, which is the queue method. The queue method lets a client queue any number of files for thumbnailing, so we can queue a number of PDFs or images, or really any file that supports thumbnails. We can tell the thumbnailer process to start generating thumbnails for those files. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the dspy application. This is just going to let us see what's running on our dbus. So if I search up thumbnail, I can see the thumbnailer object. I can open up the thumbnail interface, and I can see the queue method right here. So we can see that this corresponds to what we saw in the spec. We have 2 string arrays for the URIs and the MIME types, and we have corresponding types for the other parameters as well. So we're going to open a project folder, and we're just going to look at the 2 files we're going to generate thumbnails for. We have a single PDF here, attention is all you need paper, and we have an image. So we're going to generate thumbnails for both of these files. First file we're going to write is a program that lets us generate hashes for these files so that we know where the thumbnails are going to be stored. To do this, we'll just leverage the hashlib library in Python, which implements a number of hashing functions. The script is just going to hash the first parameter passed into argv, so we'll say md5 argv 1.encode to convert it to a byte array. We'll take the digest of that and then print the hex without a new line. Oh, little typo there. So if I now say ha.py 1, we get the hash, the md5 sum of 1. If I say the hash of the PDF, we get the hash of the PDF name. The second program we need to write is the program that's actually going to issue calls to dbus to generate the thumbnails. So we'll say from dbus import session bus, and we'll say bus is equal to session bus, so just instance the bus. Then we'll say proxy is equal to bus.get object, which takes the interface as its first parameter and the object path as its second parameter. Now, what's meant by proxy is just describing the fact that this object here is a Python object, but at the same time it's going to expose all the implemented interfaces on this object. So here on the proxy object, I'm going to call the queue method as if the queue method were a native Python method, even though this is going to be dispatched in a completely different process. So we're going to hash the PDF, and we're going to hash the JPEG as well. So the first argument of the queue function is the URIs, then the MIME types. So we have application/PDF and image/JPEG. We have the resolution, say normal, and some implementation details here. And you just have to conclude that with the interface. Right, so with that done, we can say add a shebang actually, and then we can say ./db to generate the thumbnails. So now if I say Python 3, or I can just say ha.py and copy the URI here, and if we try to open that image in the location specified by the cross desktop group spec, we can see that we've actually computed a thumbnail of the Attention is All You Need paper. Likewise, we can open the thumbnail corresponding to the JPEG. And for comparison, we can open the JPEG itself. And yeah, that's about all there is to it. So yeah, that's about it. You can generate thumbnails without using Dbus at all, so long as you respect the cross desktop group specification, but it's just easier to let another process do the work for you. Yeah, thanks.